I was just going to say, if those of you out there can mute your ends when you're not asking a question, just so we can get a clean recording, that'd be appreciated.
Thank you. My name is Frank Hager. I am Director of Product Development for Slim CD, and this is a technical presentation of integration options for Slim CD. Most of the things that we're going to present today are integration options that cover hosted payment pages or direct API integrations where it's a server-to-server or client-to-server connection. If you have business-related questions, we're more than happy to answer those as well. But primarily, the focus of this presentation is for IT folks to give them information on the options available for integration. One of the more popular options for integration are Slim CD's hosted payment pages. Hosted payment pages can be used either on a web-to-web, so the merchant's website connects to Slim CD to collect the cardholder information. They can also be used in a point-of-sale environment as well. Some of the advantages of a hosted payment page is that they are keeping you out of scope for PCI, and that the developer can receive tokens that they can use to perform refunds, voids, charge cards, again, with using the token to charge the card on file, etc. We have a variety of use cases that people use for hosted payment pages. They can be donation pages or multiple use pages where a single page is displayed and the consumer selects or enters the amount that they want to pay and enters their payment information. Other use cases are part of checkout processes. They can be part of shopping carts or registration pages for events, things like that. We do have some standard templates that give the page design a look and feel that's minimal in look and feel, but provides a lot of the standard fields: first name, last name, address, city, state, zip. All that can be customized, and I'll go over that here in a bit. We have some questions to help you identify what you're doing now and how you might like to continue to do that, or even augment it by adding other features. What type of payments do you support on your hosted payment page, or what would you like to support? You know, credit cards, checking accounts, gift cards, etc. And what information do you collect, and do you already know that information ahead of time, and you'd like it displayed on the page, or do you want to collect that from the consumer at the time of payment? So both of those are options, and you don't have to display the information. You can simply pass it on through. We'll cover all that as well. Do you collect any custom fields, maybe an order or invoice number for the payment that they're making, so you can tie it back to an accounting system, and that can be sent from the original web or PAWS over to us, or you can prompt the user for it. And how is payment provided? Again, this is very similar in that, do they select from a few options, like a donation page might have, you know, I'm donating 25, 50, or 100, or are they typing in the amount, or is it provided by the server, the shopping cart? So understanding these types of questions, and this questionnaire is on our website here at www.slimcd.com/support/HPP API-API. So understanding these questions will help you get the most out of the hosted payment pages if you're using that approach to integration. We also have a number of links here. Investigate tells you a lot about how the hosted payment page works. Evaluate lets you pick the best solution. Implement gives you the details on how to implement a hosted payment page. The hosted payment page itself, think of it as the television screen, if you will, or the display. The secure sessions I like to think of as the remote control that controls the remote session that's happening on that hosted payment page. So the hosted payment page is a display, and the secure sessions is the developer's API to control the things that are loaded into that page, or what's retrieved from that page, to check the status of the page as the consumer is filling out their order, etc. So create session lets you preload some information, show session displays the page, and check session can find out the status as you're moving through the page. We do have some full SDK downloads that you can download the traditional SDKs as well, a zip file with sample code, etc. We've got lots of samples available that you can download for both point of sale and web in a variety of different languages. And I'll cover where all that information is here as we go forward. So this is a very generic overview of hosted payment pages, and the reason why we led with that, because a lot of folks are using that type of a technology, but it is not our only only option. You can connect directly with an API, and even if you use a hosted payment page to collect the card number and receive a token, you might still use the direct API to perform refunds or to charge cards on file, recurring billing, those types of things. I've already covered a lot about hosted payment pages. We have another technology called Your Page with JavaScript. So it's a hosted JavaScript that's hosted on our server, and the page is created on the merchant's website under the merchant's control. Simply include the JavaScript, and it will process the card data, returning a token to the web page, and then the merchant server only receives the token. So that's also a very valuable approach to avoid PCI and still keep complete 100% control over the entire form and display, and keep it all within your website, responsive design, all the other things you might want to consider. We can also have the SlimCD makes client applications that are ready to go out of the box. A SlimCD for PC, SlimCD mobile apps. Those can be launched so that a point-of-sale system can, when it's time to accept the payment, launch our application, let it run the PIN pads or type in the information, and then return approved or declined. And finally, large batch and account updater features are also available. You can find a lot of information on our developer website, developer.slimcd.com. And again, a couple of brief questions to consider is what types of payments are you taking? Do current card numbers currently pass through your system? If so, then the direct API is what you want. And if you want to avoid that, then the hosted payment page, hosted JavaScript, launch our app are great choices. And I'll tell you where you can get more information about all of those. Other things to consider is, do you perform recurring billing? Would you like us to schedule when the cards are billed automatically, or do you do that on your own using tokens? And all those features are available through SlimCD. So we're going to take a brief minute and quickly go over a lot of the options that are available. I know I covered them, but we're going to go over them in a little bit more detail. First, a little bit about us. We've been in business a long time. Since 2001, we process for a variety of services: credit cards, debit cards, checks, gift cards, point-of-sale checks, ACH checks. We do integrated shopping carts, we provide gateway services, etc. So I've gone over these options already, but here they are again. With the direct connections is where your server collects the card number, and it actually has it, maybe even stores it in a database if you like, and you're simply connecting from your server or your point-of-sale system over to SlimCD and charging the card. That would put you in scope for PCI. Hosted payment pages that are controlled by secure sessions and hosted JavaScript are ways to eliminate PCI. The hosted payment pages can work on a point-of-sale or a web. Hosted JavaScript is primarily a web technology. Also, you can launch our apps. And if you want to support EMV cards at point of sale, we have a variety of technologies to help you with that as well. All the payment types we've covered. We support a lot of different industries. This may or may not apply to you, but everything from pharmacy with the 4U, 4V, 4W values, and the IIAS indicators, to e-commerce and hotel lodging, auto rental. All those specific industries are supported with all their data types. Lots of transaction types are available for you. Everything you might want to do, or you do a pre-authorization and later you complete the transaction, or you do a single transaction where you're charging the card, all that is available. A $0 authorization to validate a card number, expiration date, CVV, and zip before you ever store the card, all that is available. Now, in the direct connections world, you can connect directly to us using a standard HTTP post web service, but we've also written libraries that wrap our web service and available in a lot of the popular languages for mobile, for web, for PAWS environments, etc. Or you can just call the web services directly with XML or JSON, and there's sample code for all of the above and more available. Hosted payment pages, you can customize the look and feel of them. You can add custom forms to the field. You can preload them with specific data as you're checking out. If you know the amount or you know the customer's information, you can preload it into the form and either have it displayed or not displayed. All those are options that are available. And of course, it'll return data to the developer, whatever was collected, or simply pass it back to the developer. So if they send us a specific record ID or something and you want that returned, that's no problem. And we can send that emails to the merchants or to the consumers as the transaction completes. I've covered hosted JavaScript a little bit already, but it's the ability to keep a page completely on your site so they never leave the merchant site, but they're still out of scope for PCI, and there's a whole page on our developers website documented to how to do that, how it works, how to code that correctly so that it functions, and there's samples available. Launching our app primarily for point-of-sale users, but can be used in mobile as well, and it launches our applications that are pre-built and returns approved or declined back to the developer. I've talked about semi-integrated hardware. We do have EMV chip options. The Augusta is an amazing device that plugs in with no drivers and can be used by web, cloud, PC, Mac, any type of a computer. I've even got it to work on phones. So you can plug this in, it acts as a keyboard, and just like the traditional card swipe devices, this is a card swipe device that also supports EMV, and of course the full range of pin pads from Verifone and Ingenico, and we've also got an EMV link, which is a little white box you see on the very far right of the screen that puts the pin pad as part of Slim CD's network so that a developer simply performs a web service call like they would in the direct API connection, but instead of passing us the card number, it lights up the pin pad, collects the card number and signature if it's a signature device, etc., prompts the user, runs the entire EMV transaction, and returns approved or declined back to the web service caller. A lot of functionality in all the EMV stuff. If you're looking at EMV, we've certainly got the easiest way to get that up and running for you. Every transaction you do through all the technologies we've shown will always return a token so that you can use that to avoid the transaction or to refund it or to charge that same card on file. Also, any of these hardware options I've shown you can do encryption so that the hardware is encrypting the device, and if it goes through your network or point of sale, it's encrypted from the hardware, which also minimizes your PCI scope. Our developer's website is an amazing resource that you'll want to check out if you're a developer. That gives you all the information, and as we look at the tabs across the top, investigate lets you look at all the technologies I've just described, evaluate helps you pick which one's best for you, implement gives you some guidelines and business rules about how to implement certain things, and the reference library gives you every API we've got with sample code in every language, and it's all available right there. There's also a new link on there called Videos, which will have a variety of videos covering each of these technologies, including the one I'm showing you today, the slideshow today, will be covered in greater detail, all of the functionality that's available. As an example of all the APIs, here's a list of some of the reference libraries, and you can see that you can send transactions, close batches, you can do the secure sessions for the hosted payment pages, you can retrieve reports and downloading information so you can automatically reconcile. So maybe you've got 3 stores and the 3 stores are all operating, but you can download information and in from headquarters and reconcile what happened or reconcile web orders, etc., by downloading data right out of our system. And if you're doing signature capture at the point of sale, you can download the signatures and retrieve receipts and email them out as well. And again, sample code is available in all the popular languages that show you how to do each of the entry points. In addition, we have a whole download section of a regular website that gives you a ton of information in all these different technologies I've talked about with lots of samples, zip files and traditional zip files with PDFs, and all that's available as well. Some folks prefer to get a PDF, print it out, take a look at it. That's all available here. Here are the URLs to those websites. The developer's website, developer.slimc.com, and the download page gives you all the downloads. So you'll find sample code that you can cut and paste right out of the developer's website, but you've also got full SDKs you can download from the download page in all the languages. I'm going to switch gears for a minute, and hosted payment pages are such a popular topic that I'm going to go a little bit deeper into those now. So let me start that slideshow off. And I'm going to skip past a lot of this. We've covered a lot of this already. We've discussed they can work on, PAWs and websites, shopping carts, and mobile devices, and email. You can actually email a link to a hosted payment page customized for a consumer, and they can pay through that email. So that's possible as well. We have graphical forms. The forms contain fields, and you can modify the forms, modify the fields, and you can control the forms approved and declined handling and the receipts. All that's available through the hosted payment pages. And secure sessions is how you control what's happening in a hosted payment page. Those are all the APIs for secure sessions. So we have a very simple one here that doesn't prompt for anything except the card number. The idea of this is you've collected all the other information. You simply want the card number and then return back to your website with a token. That's quite easy to do. If you want a standard template with prompting for more information, those are available and easy to create and modify. And in a donations page example, you're selecting the amount. So where previously the amount would be sent from the checkout system, the shopping cart or whatever, in this case, it's something that's designed to be used by multiple users. We don't know any information ahead of time. Here's the page, please fill it all out, and send the money. And you can also add a reCAPTCHA. It's a Google reCAPTCHA to make sure it's not a robot, and that keeps people from running fake cards to test cards against your website. It's a good thing to do if you've got a consumer-facing page that's not part of a system like a donation page. Here's even the simplest version without any information. You can even remove the black border. So all that for tokenization is all possible. And a checkout example here is showing you with all the pre-filled information. Maybe you want to let them confirm their email address. You can make any of these fields display only, editable, or completely hidden. They can get quite fancy. This is actually the Slim CD invoice system. It supports mail merge fields as well as prompt fields. So we've created a hosted payment page that we use in our own invoice system where we're merging in all the line item details for this order and all the sales tax calculations and notes and customer information, and they simply fill out their payment information at the bottom. So forms can get quite fancy or quite elegant depending on the talent of your graphics artist. These folks did a real nice job putting in nice backgrounds and changing the colors and the style sheets, so all that is available. In the simplest session flow, like a donation page, the merchant's website starts the session, displays the page, and the receipt. I call this the cul-de-sac because it goes in and that's the end of it. But if you'd like it to return back to the web server, you create a session, you show the session, and then you pull it returns control back to the merchant's website at the end, and it returns data informing whether the transaction's been approved or declined. So it redirects to the Slim City site, and the Slim City site redirects back to the shopping cart or checkout page. So that's more of a web session flow and pause session flow. We can't redirect back to a point of sale, so we have the ability to call check session, which in a polling mode will monitor what's happening on the session. I actually have people using this type architecture in the web world as well. So all three of these architectures are available for you and very easy to configure. Lots of stuff you can do with a page with graphics fields and headers and footers and transaction handling and how you handle the name, what kind of validation you're going to do, what kind of prompts are available, and all the fields you can add as many as you want and customize each field with a validation, display type, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole video presentation on that, and I encourage everyone to take a look on our developer.slimcity.com. Click on the video links, and there's a video at the top. There are tons. There's a new link up here right after reference called videos that lists all kinds of videos on all kinds of information and goes over the APIs, et cetera. So I encourage all of you to take a look at that. The last thing I'm going to go over very quickly is the Direct Connect APIs. Now, you can use these if you're doing tokenization to send the tokens, or if you want and you're in scope, you can also use these to send the full transaction data. So let me start this slideshow. A lot of this we've covered already. It's direct server to server. You can also, with these control secure sessions, et cetera, you can receive, upload and download and pull data for reconciliation. All the direct web service calls and all the libraries. Here's some use cases for when you want to use these things. As you've listened to this video or this presentation and watched some of the videos, you'll be able to identify which pieces of this fit your current business model. And there's sample code galore for swiping, keying, web-based stuff, pause-based stuff, mobile stuff. It's all in there. If you're simply sending over direct connections, you can do name value pairs in HTTP post. You can send SOAP XML, you can send JSON, or you can use any of our libraries. So if you send HTTP name values, you get back name values. If you send SOAP or XML, you get back XML. If you use JSON, you get back JSON. And in the libraries, they're already formatted, so simply by using our libraries, we're formatting up the internal HTTP post and the document style for you by just setting the property, and when you get the response back, it's already been parsed into properties as well, and simply use methods to invoke any of our API calls, and those are all available in the libraries, PHP, JavaScript, .NET, Androids, Java, Objective-C for iOS, all that's available. Again, whatever you pass in, you get back. And You can send card numbers or you can send tokens. You can process credit, debit, check, gift, even EMV, all with the same API. It's not two APIs, it's one endpoint, one API. We do recommend that you send what appears in our reports as the invoice number, and it's actually the internal field name is called client transref. That's the client's transaction reference, and that makes transactions unique. I've got a lot of information and videos on the individual data fields. Check those out to learn more about that client transref. It ties your system to ours. That's one of the more important ones, and it does appear in the reports. It can even go all the way to the bank, so that's a really important field. The level 2 and level 3 data helps you get better rates. There's videos on that as well on the website, and you can even have clerk names so you can get clerk reporting, and API access credentials are also real important. By creating an API access credential, instead of using a username and password, if the merchant logs in and changes their password, it doesn't affect these remote web or POS systems if they have API access credentials. So the API access credentials independent of logging into the website, and if someone changes a password, you don't have to update the web or the POS systems as a result. So those are also very handy and useful. You get a lot of data returned, everything you need to show the customer the last 4 digits of the card and use the tokens on file. You can even store the expiration date and be out of scope with PCI so that you can perform your own recurring billing or have cards on file without actually having the cards but instead have tokens, and all that's available. And again, I'm going to point to the developer's website for a lot of this information. So I've mentioned the developer's website. Let's take a quick look at it. Developer.slimcd.com. And as I mentioned, there's the new video link here. I do suggest you look at that. Under Investigate, we're going to find a lot of information about all these technologies. And the Your page with JavaScript is all here. It tells you everything about it right here in this one page. And it winds up at the end describing it step by step and give you a full sample code that does it, plus some more sample codes that you can use here. So that's all concise right there. Again, we go over the direct API connections, the hosted payment pages, etc. All there available for you. In the reference library, if I take a look at closed batch, for instance, the format of this is the definition is here telling you what fields it wants, and it tells you what it's going to give back as a reply. Then there's samples in all the different languages. Just click on your language, and here's all the samples you can possibly need for every language. So we encourage you to take a look at that. There's direct web service call documentation here as well, and even JSON. So all that's available for you, and cut and paste as you need it to. The videos, it takes these a minute to load, but there's the overview that I went over very rapidly in more detail here for the available options, as well as direct connections, hosted payment pages, and the hosted JavaScript. There's a detailed documentation on that, detailed documentation on how to create forms and modify them, the SlimCD reporting hierarchy, test boxes, test sandboxes and test accounts, how to reduce PCI scope, some techniques to make sure you're getting the most out of the PCI scope reduction that we offer. Again, hosted payment pages, changing the look and feel, adding additional data fields, controlling the flow of the pages. All that's in here, and there'll be more that'll be up here on this website by the end of the day today that covers all the EMV. If you want to do EMV integration, there'll be a lot of that information up here as well. I also mentioned the download page. And if we go to the developer's download page, all these tabs give you lots of stuff. Matter of fact, you can actually, here's a whole Your page sample, and here's a sample picker just to give you an idea. Every function in JavaScript that we support is all available here. So there's a lot of information on this page. Here are full SDK downloads for point of sale, for web, with lots of languages in them, and all the data fields, PDFs, the whole 9 yards. Secure Sessions hosted payment page, also very valuable. If you're doing hosted payment pages, there's a full manual in there. We've got it on the website if you like websites. If you like PDFs, it's right in there for you. If you're launching our apps, that's available here too. And lots of EMV resources if you're looking at doing EMV. And of course, the EMV link is available here as well, all the samples for that. Everything you need can be right here, organized either by language or by technology. So it's all here for you, and we invite you to use it all. So with all of this, I've covered a tremendous amount of material and given you some guidelines on how you can look at these questionnaires to decide what's your best fit out of these options, and if you're using hosted payment pages, what you might want to do to get the most out of the hosted payment page. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mike and open it up for some questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Frank. And yeah, let's go right into it. If anyone does have any questions about anything covered or anything else regarding the conversion, we'll try to help you out.
Yeah, I've got a question. I don't know if my mic is on. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. We can hear you, yes.
Okay, wonderful. We currently we're using a hosted pay page, and all of that makes sense to me. Looking forward, we're planning to develop an in-house Android-based application that's going to allow for card swiping to process payment. With your whole suite of technology here, do you guys have anything that would allow us to accomplish that and still stay out of PCI scope?
This is Frank. I'll take that one. If you're going to use an Android-based application and you use the ID Tech reader, it does encryption in the reader. So since the reader has done hardware encryption and we do the decryption and you don't have the keys to decrypt it, then the swipe will be considered out of scope as far as you're not touching, storing, or transmitting cardholder data because you can't decrypt it. You're more like a network point. Where part of the challenge will become is what do you do for keyed when they key one in? In the keyed case, you could use a hosted payment page that's designed for what's called a web view in Android, where you put a web view in and you have it really displaying a web page, and you can make it look with responsive design like part of your application, and then you can capture the key transactions there. And the third option, so using the swiper that does the encryption and the hosted payment page to capture the keyed input would give you your app with as reduced scope as you can get it. And then to completely be out of scope with your app, you could launch our app to take the payment information and have it return the answer back to you. That's the second choice.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Scott Messner from Nicolay College. We're a higher education 2-year technical college, current Moneris customer, and we were told that we should be off of that and switching to Slim CD by the end of October. My question was, does Slim CD have any experience with Power Campus by Ellucian as a student information system and processing payments from their self-service application?
This is Frank. I haven't heard of that application. Applications that are in the wild or commercial applications typically have two methods of integrating. One is where the developer of that application actually performs the integration, and in other cases, they will expose an API that allows you to place hooks into their system to take the payments. And I'm not sure which one this particular commercial product does. And we're not as familiar with it, but I would be happy to work with you offline on that and see if we can find the best way to get that converted and up and running.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great, because currently self-service will accept the return, it's supposed to, from many vendors, but from Moneris it couldn't. So we had to have a custom Apache Tomcat application built to process the transaction returns, which we'd like to get away from, and we just like to use the native functionality in the self-service. So that'd be great. I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Let me put my email address out there for everyone. It's Frank, F-R-A-N-K, at slim, S-L-I-M-C-D.com. And I invite you to send me the URLs for that particular product, and I'll take a look at it. If we can get them involved, what I found, and this is for everyone, if we as a payment gateway contact a product developer, we're simply another person trying to distract them from whatever their current goals are, because they already have development schedules. So most of the times, a lot of sales reps will contact product developers trying to get merchant account business from them. So when I call up, they think I'm just another sales rep just trying to get them to sell credit card services to their customers so that the merchant service person makes money. And it's difficult for me to get through because the sales reps before have done such a good job of saturating the market by calling everybody, every day for months, and it's really hard for me to get a hold of the right people. On the other hand, if the customer or owner of their product calls, now it goes through the regular support channels, and then a request to integrate with the payment gateway is taken a little bit more seriously because it's an existing or potential customer, not some vendor who wants to gain business if you work for me for free kind of a thing. So if you would also reach out to them and see if, and this is true for everyone that has a commercial product, a shopping cart or anything, and see if they're interested in doing an integration with us or what options they have available, we're certainly happy to help them and make sure we minimize their time. We have gone out of our way to make our APIs as simple as possible to integrate with. That being said, everyone who's out there with a commercial product is still supporting it and evolving it and developing it and has their own development schedule. So to get inserted in these things in a quick amount of time, it's not an easy feat. So we're certainly sympathetic to the effort it's going to take, and we're willing to help however we can. And that's why I gave you my email address, and our number, the 800 number is at the bottom of these slides. I'll put it up here as well. But there will be some challenges getting some of these vendors integrated, and if it takes some custom integration, then that may be what needs to be done like was done before. It's not our favorite way to go, and obviously not being expert in that product, we might want to find, you know, folks that already know those products to get that done quicker. So here's our email, that's support, but also mine is frank@slimcity.com, and there's our toll-free number to call, just so everyone has that.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, and the other thing I do want to warn is I know they gave that deadline of October, but in my experience as a developer, if I am going dark on October, I need to be ready to roll out to production by the end of September so I can make sure everything's ready, and that really only gives us a couple of months, you know, to get everything ready, because we all know that all battle plans are perfect until the first shot's fired, and things do happen, so we want to make sure that you're, you know, plan accordingly. And I know it's real tough with a tight deadline for development to get this stuff done, but that's why we've tried to put these webinars on and put all those videos up there for you. As you can tell, when I created the slideshows, the videos didn't exist, and all that's been done to give as much information in a self-help fashion as possible so that folks like yourself can find the best solution the quickest and jump right on it. Any more questions? Hello?
No questions here.
No questions? For a minute I heard somebody drop. I thought I might have lost the line, but I'm glad you're here. Mike, do you have anything to add?
That's all at this point. Remember, developer.slimcity.com, all the details of everything Frank talked about, as well as videos covering a number of different methodologies. And then support@slimcity.com is the email, and the phone number is on your screen. This recording will be made available. I'm actually going to go ahead and stop it now, but this recording will be made available to you on the website you used to join this meeting. So if there are no other questions, we'd like to thank everyone for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.